news. Like every single day, there's some crazy new headline about AI, you know?
Yeah.
But this time it feels different. This time we're not just talking about AI writing poems or, you know, creating art. We're diving into the world of AI agents. What are they? Why are people freaking out about them? And should you be worried?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to find out today.
To understand why this is such a big deal, we got to understand the difference between a typical AI model and an AI agent.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this.
So think of it this way. Imagine a calculator.
Okay.
That's your basic AI model. It can process information, gives you an output, but that's about it. Now picture a personal assistant. That assistant can use tools and, yes, even that calculator to achieve a specific goal you've set. Maybe even without you having to give them step-by-step instructions.
Yeah.
That's more like an AI agent.
So instead of just giving you the answer to a math problem, it's like having something that can actually do things for you using those AI skills.
Exactly.
Now, you've given us a whole stack of articles on this, and it's wild how this topic has gone from something only tech folks were talking about to being on the radar of major businesses. We're talking open source initiatives, tech giants like IBM throwing their hats in the ring, and even predictions about the future of intelligence itself. Where do we even start?
Well, one name that keeps popping up is Dharmesh Shah, the CTO of HubSpot.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't just some random tech CEO making predictions. This is someone who knows a thing or two about how businesses work.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to marketing and customer relationships.
Because HubSpot basically wrote the book on that, right?
Exactly. So when Shah says that 2024 is going to be the year of the AI agent, people pay attention.
And he's not just saying AI agents are coming, he's saying they're going to start building other AI agents.
I know, right?
It's like picturing a bunch of robots in a factory, but instead of building cars, they're building more robots.
It's a bold claim. And, in the article, Shah actually draws a parallel to the rise of smartphone apps.
Okay.
Remember what happened when app stores took off? Suddenly, anyone could create and distribute software without needing huge resources.
Oh, right. It was like this explosion of creativity and innovation with millions of apps for basically everything you could imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Shah seems to think AI agents could have a similar impact, with agents being built for every imaginable task and industry.
But this time, instead of tapping on your phone, you might be telling your AI agent what to do. It's a fascinating, if not slightly intimidating idea.
It really is. And this leads us to another important aspect of this whole AI agent revolution. The battle between open and closed systems, which is where things get even more interesting.
Okay, because this is where we start to see different visions for how this technology could unfold.
Right.
On one hand, you have companies like HubSpot, who, at least for now, seem to be keeping their AI agent development pretty close to the vest. What does that even mean, keeping it close to the vest?
Yeah.
Help me out here.
Sure. In simple terms, it means they're not sharing their technology or how they built it. Think of it like a secret recipe. Only HubSpot has access to the ingredients and the instructions. They control how it's used and who gets to use it.
So it's kind of like having a superpower that only they have.
Right.
I get it.
Exactly. But then on the other side of the spectrum, you have organizations like IBM and NASA who are going in a completely different direction. They've teamed up to create a powerful AI system for weather and climate prediction, and they're making it open source.
Okay, so two big questions here. What does open source actually mean in this context? And why would IBM and NASA just give this technology away like that?
Great questions. So open source means they're basically making the code of their AI system publicly available. Anyone can look at it, use it, even modify it to suit their needs.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's like they're saying, here's the recipe, go make your own AI weather forecaster. That's wild, but why would they do that? What's the advantage?
Well, the thinking is that by making it open source, you unleash this wave of innovation. More people can contribute to the project, find new uses for it, and potentially improve it faster than any one company could on its own.
So it's like a global brainstorming session for AI. That makes sense, especially with something as complex as weather and climate modeling.
Exactly. And in the case of IBM and NASA, they trained their AI on 40 years of NASA's Earth observation data, which is a treasure trove of information.
Wow.
They believe that making the code open source could lead to breakthroughs in our understanding of climate change and help us find solutions faster.
That's incredible, but I imagine it's not all sunshine and roses with open source AI, right? There must be some downsides too.
You're absolutely right. One of the biggest challenges is the issue of control and potential misuse.
Right.
If anyone can access and modify the code, what's to prevent bad actors from using it for malicious purposes? There's also the question of data privacy and security, especially if the AI is trained on sensitive information.
Right, that makes sense. And to make it even more complicated, one of the articles mentioned that the Open Source Initiative, which is kind of like the governing body for open source software, is having a tough time even defining what open source AI means.
It's true, yeah. They're grappling with questions like, how open does the data used to train the AI need to be? Can an AI system truly be considered open source if the data it was trained on is kept private? It's a really tricky issue with no easy answers.
It sounds like it. This reminds me of something else we were looking at, this model openness framework. It tries to categorize different levels of openness, and it seemed like just trying to understand those categories was a whole other deep dive waiting to happen. Can you give us the quick version?
Absolutely. The framework basically breaks it down into 3 tiers.
Okay.
At the most basic level, you have open data, where the data used to train the AI is freely available to anyone. Then you have open code, which is what we were talking about with IBM and NASA. Anyone can access and modify the code of the AI system itself. But the most interesting and perhaps most challenging tier is what they call open weights.
Okay, open weights. That sounds even more technical. Break it down for me.
So the weights of an AI model are basically the parameters that determine how it makes decisions. They're learned during the training process, kind of like how our brains form connections as we learn new things.
Interesting.
Opening the weights means giving people access to the core of how the AI thinks, which could lead to incredible breakthroughs in understanding and improving AI.
Wow, so it's like giving someone the keys to the AI's brain in a way.
That's a great way to put it. But you can see how this also raises concerns about control and potential misuse. It's a powerful tool, and with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Absolutely. So open source AI, closed systems, different levels of openness. It's a lot to wrap your head around, but it seems like these are the kinds of conversations we need to be having now as this technology continues to evolve.
I completely agree. The decisions we make today about how we develop and regulate AI will have huge implications for the future.
Speaking of the future, we can't talk about AI without mentioning Sam Altman and the elephant, or maybe I should say the superintelligence, in the room. Remind us, who is Sam Altman and why should we care what he has to say about AI?
Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT and DALL-E, which you've probably heard of. Right. They're at the forefront of AI research and development, and Altman has been very vocal about his belief that we are on the brink of something truly extraordinary.
Yeah.
Artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
AGI, that's where the AI is basically as smart as a human, right?
Yeah.
Do anything we can do.
Exactly. But Altman doesn't stop there. He goes even further and predicts that we're just a few thousand days away from what he calls superintelligence.
Okay.
AI that surpasses human capabilities in every way imaginable.
A few thousand days. He's really putting a timeline on it, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's exciting and more than a little scary at the same time. So is this superintelligence going to be like solving all our problems and composing symphonies, or are we headed for a Terminator-style robot uprising?
Well, as with most things AI related, it's probably a bit more complicated than either of those scenarios.
Okay, good. I was hoping you were going to say that. But seriously, is Altman just caught up in the hype here?
It's certainly possible. One of the articles mentioned a computer scientist, Grady Bush, who was very critical of Altman's timeline.
Okay.
He basically said that predicting the arrival of superintelligence in a few thousand days is like predicting the weather a year from now. There are just too many variables and unknowns.
So there's healthy skepticism, and then there's this guy is living in a sci-fi novel skepticism.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Buch believes that while AI has made remarkable progress, we're still far from understanding the true nature of intelligence, let alone replicating it.
Okay.
He argues that we should focus on developing AI that complements human capabilities, rather than trying to create something that surpasses us entirely.
That makes sense. Focus on the tools, not the takeover. But regardless of the timeline, it's clear that Altman's vision has a lot of people talking.
It does, and it's not just his words. OpenAI's actions are also raising eyebrows. For example, they recently brought on Joanie I, the design mastermind behind the iPhone and Apple Watch.
Oh, wow.
What do you make of that?
That's a really interesting point. It's like they're saying that AI isn't just about algorithms and data. It's about design, user experience, how it integrates into our lives.
Precisely. Having someone like Ive on board suggests that OpenAI is thinking beyond just building powerful AI. They're considering how to make it accessible, even desirable, to the average person.
It's easy to get swept up in all the hype and the, speculation about superintelligence and all this. But at the end of the day, this isn't just a tech industry conversation, is it? This is about how AI, and specifically these AI agents, we've been diving into how they could impact all of our lives.
Absolutely. And I think the key takeaway here is not to get bogged down in fear about some kind of robot takeover, but to really start thinking about the practical implications. How might AI agents change the way you work, the skills you need to thrive, even the way you approach problem solving in your daily life?
Because it's not hard to imagine a future where instead of just using AI tools, you're actually managing a team of AI agents, right? Like you've got your marketing agent, your scheduling agent, maybe even your brainstorming agent,
right?
All working alongside you and your human colleagues.
Exactly. And this isn't just some far-off fantasy.
Right.
The technology is advancing rapidly, and the way these articles are talking about it, it feels like we're on the cusp of a major shift.
Okay, so let's bring this back to you, the listener, because this is where it gets real, right? This whole conversation about AI agents, open source, superintelligence, it can feel kind of abstract until you start to think about what it actually means for your job, your industry, even your everyday life 5-10 years down the road.
And that's a question we all need to be asking ourselves. How do we prepare for a future where AI is no longer just a tool, but potentially a collaborator, a teammate, even a competitor in some ways?
It's a lot to process. I remember reading about this concept of augmented intelligence, where instead of replacing humans, AI agents actually enhance our own capabilities, help us do things we never could have done on our own. That's both exciting and a little intimidating, right?
It is. And I think that's the perfect note to end on. This isn't about fearing the unknown, but embracing the possibilities and approaching them with a healthy dose of curiosity and perhaps even a sense of adventure.
I like that. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with one final thought-provoking question for you. If you could hire an AI agent tomorrow, what would it be? What task, what problem, what challenge would you unleash it on?
Now that's a question worth pondering.
It really is. And maybe it's something you, our listeners, can share with us, because this conversation is far from over. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI agents. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those big, important questions.